Let's talk about NBA dynasties really quickly. This has been another argument that's come out of this. I feel like there's been 3 ever. And then after that, it depends on your definition of what counts as a dynasty. But to me, it's Russell Celtics, 11 titles, 13 years. Russell won 70.7% of his games. That counts. Magic's Lakers, we mentioned them. Jordan's Bulls, 6 titles, 6 finals, 8 years. And then after that, it can get a little gamey, whatever your definition is, right? Like, Duncan Spurs, do you consider them a dynasty or just an awesome era?
Yeah, you were really strict with it, and I'd rather you be strict than loose. As Villanova.
I might be too strict. I'm willing to talk it out. To me, it's like it's a know it when you see it thing, and if we're arguing about it or wondering about it, then maybe you weren't a dynasty.
People will do it if you win 2 out of 3 now.
That's my thing. It's like I think,
but that's not what this
dynasty,
is.
all this stuff. It's like, to me, dynasty is sustained dominance for a prolonged period of time. Right? So
how is that not Duncan? Duncan to me is.
It's Duncan's 18 years, 5 titles, 6 finals, and then a couple daggers, right? 04, Fisher shot. 06, they're up 3. Manu fouls Dirk, 3-point play, they lose in overtime. 2012, they're up 2-0. I still don't totally understand what happened.
The OKC series?
Yeah,
that one
I still don't know what happened.
I'm still 11 or 10 years later, I don't know what happened.
I can't explain to you what happened. 2013, the Ray Allen shot. And it's very similar to the Pats, where it's like the Pats ended up with 6. They could have won 8. They could have won 3. And the Spurs, like, they ended up with 5. They probably could have won 7 pretty easily. I think the over-under, if you look back, is probably 6.5. They were always good. But to me, it's like, is 5 titles in 18 years, is that a dynasty or an awesome run? It's almost like we need another word. So if you think Duncan Spurs are a dynasty, that makes this a lot easier.
Yeah, but I understand none of us, this seems to be a word all of us have a hard time identifying. It's personal preference. So the Celtics thing's never happening again. So if that's your standard, then cool, nothing's ever a dynasty.
Yeah, so maybe modern dynasty. I don't know. Kobe's Lakers.
Dynasty 2.
Kobe's Lakers, 5 titles, 7 finals in 11 years. And it's kind of split up because you have the Shaq part where they win 3 in a row. They make the finals 4 out of 5 years. Then they crater. 05, 06, 07. They win 0 playoff series. They missed the playoffs one of those years. Then they have the second run, 08, 09, and 10. 3 finals, 2 rings. And if you group them up, I guess you could call it a Kobe dynasty, but if part of dynasty is sustained dominance, how do you explain a 3-year swoon where you weren't dominant at all? How's that a dynasty? So
maybe we should just change it though. Like the Ming dynasty is, I think, just under 300 years. That's
right. There's probably some ebbs and flows.
Right. There's probably a couple villages that are like, we're sick of this shit. And then there's some overlaps in the timeline. So maybe you should do this. Just have it be the individual's dynasty, because it's not the Lakers dynasty when all the pieces change out and it's one person that's the same. It's like
a Kobe dynasty.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the Steph dynasty. I think we had a LeBron dynasty. I think the Duncan dynasty exists. So the Celtics version of it, like, how different is the Magic Lakers dynasty when it's what? It's 81.
It's Magic only. Yeah. It's 80 to. Yeah, you're right. Well, I have, ironically, the way I wrote it out, each one was Russell Celtics, Magic's Lakers, Jordan's Bulls, going down. Birds. So here's where it gets. So Curry's Warriors, 4 titles, 6 finals in 8 years. Really should have won in 2019. Half decade of like true dynasty dominance, but they also missed the playoffs in year 6 and year 7. So if you're just talking about sustained dominance, then all of a sudden it's hard to qualify when in 25% of the years of the dynasty, you didn't make the playoffs. Birds, Celtics.
Okay, but was there one specific reason? Yes, the first year Steph didn't play.
Steph got hurt. Second year, Steph did play, and so did Draymond. Klay didn't play, but, they weren't even one of the best 8 teams. Birds, Celtics, 8-year run from 1980 to 88. 3 titles, 5 finals. As we said before, Bird won 71.5% of his games. They made 8 of 9 conference finals from 80 to 88. I'm the biggest Bird homer there is. I never considered that like a dynasty. So I guess my point is, there's the 3, and then I think there's another 5 if you're going to get loose with the word dynasty. Because then we didn't talk about Mikan's Lakers, which pre-Russell, barely any black guys in the league at that point. And, they won 5 titles. I don't even know where to put that. But I think those were the 8. Those were the 8 runs. And if we want to get a little loose with dynasty, that's fine. Did you think that Jeter Yankees 96-01, would you consider that a dynasty?
Yeah, because they were horrifying and they were awesome.
So I agree with that. So that would be the case for the Warriors. I'm willing to admit I might have underthought this one. But to me, it's just like Russell, Celtics, Magic's, Lakers, Jordan's, Bulls are just levitating above any other version of this.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But I think if you're holding it to the standard of what the Celtics are and what the Bulls are, and the Bulls argument, I always hate when it's like, well, it'd be 8 in a row. It wouldn't be 8 in a row.
Yeah, that would have lost one of them.
All you have to do is watch all the footage of them in the last of the 3-peats, so the 6th one, where they're just mentally washed. And I don't know how they would have been if they'd still had 5 in a row prior to you know what I mean? Like,
also, they had no size in 95. We talked about this when we were doing our rewatches. They just didn't have rebounding and paint protection. I don't think that team would have beaten anybody, even if Jordan had played.
And yet, look, we're still putting it in there, so it doesn't even matter. So there's no point even being critical of it. I think we're way too loose with it, and that's why I always make that joke after like anybody winning, where it'll be like, hey, is this maybe the first step in the dynasty? Because like dumb stuff will happen, right? Like a team wins 2 out of 4, and you're like, eh? Like, why would we be in a rush? To like, could it have this kind of run? But almost nobody does. And when you also point out, like, the Pats could probably have a couple more, they could have a couple less. Alabama, if they had better kickers, could definitely have a couple more. But there's some weird shit that's happening there too, where they could probably have a couple less. Everybody seems to kind of land on the number that makes sense for them, whether it's Magic having more or less than the 9 finals appearance that he has in there and all that stuff. Steph, you could take 15 away from him. You could say without the Draymond, give him 16 back. You could say without the Durant thing, it's 5 in a row. Like so Steph kind of lands on like 4 and 2 feels right for him.
I agree. So maybe it's tier 1 and tier 2 dynasties. You could be a tier 1 dynasty or a tier 2.
So a Leo DiCaprio or Matt Damon NBA champ.
I think I might be too hardcore with dynasties.
Maybe rather you be. No, but it's kind of like the Hall of Fame thing. Like, I mean, we knew this would happen, but when we started doing Hall of Fame predictions for guys going into the NBA Finals, and you brought up Wiggins, and I lost my shit.
Yeah, now Wiggins is going to make it. Put him in. Second best player in the Finals team, 20,000 points.
You don't actually think that,
now.
do you?
I think he has a decent chance now.
Okay. So I would rather
everyone gets in.
Everybody gets in. You're right.